much time of yours, and I really know that everyone is busy with, everyone has started reading the article, but before you start reading the article, I'll just say, spend some minutes with me, maximum 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not going to take more time of yours, because I know that we all are tired by, I'm one of you, so I was also sitting for the session, and I'm really interested in listening to people, what exactly they're doing currently. Just to give you a gist, apart from getting a certificate for ATAL FDP, what's the motto for coming for a session of information security, a practical approach? Is there anyone who really says, or is there anyone, let's say, 6 days, everyone is going to get a certificate, believe me. But there has to be something in our mind why I should really go and enter into the domain of security. Why there is a need of security, why everyone is talking about security. If I simply talk about, I'm not going to give you details, I'm just going to start as a beginner, because I know that the crowd which we have is a multidisciplinary crowd, and I really want you to understand why this kind of FDP, and why we want to get into security, and why one has to understand it. I'm just going to give you some statistics to start with the session. Now this is a statistic. Part of it is already covered by Mr. KK, who has come for the prior session. But just wanted to give you a gist of what is the increment, how exactly the security domain has changed in recent years. If you see the statistics, the comparison of the statistics which is given is, I've actually listed the domains, which is going to be helpful for you to select one of your domain for the paper discussion. So the domains, if you observe it, it's any random domain which you talk about. If I'm talking about education and research, until I talk about as an hardware vendor. So what kind of each and every individual domain, how exactly they're impacted from last quarter, the first quarter of 2022 till the current quarter of the first quarter of 2023. What was the change actually that happened? If you observe very clearly, there was a drastic change, or there was a major focus on education and research as the domain. The maximum people started actually attacking on these domains. What was the reason? Nobody actually knew about what was the reason why this was being done. I will focus on certain case studies of where exactly in 2023, which were the maximum breaches that happened. What was the data that was impacted? The minute I talk about data, it's information. What was impacted, and how exactly the criminals or maybe the attackers had actually done a kind of. So if you observe very clearly, plus says it's the rise in that particular domain from last quarter of from the first quarter of 2022 till first quarter of 2023. So if you observe very clearly, the retail and the wholesale sector, there was a rise which was 49% from compared to the last year, and there was a drastic increase in consultant, the hardware vendors, and the education and the research sector. Why exactly it happened? It happened because of the new attacks, the new possibilities that started coming in. So in today's session, we are simply going to look at why exactly it has happened and how exactly it happened. In 2023, the last, I could not get the recent data unfortunately, but October 2023, the data which I could actually grab was there were the number of incidents that happened, the major incidents that happened in October 2023 were 140, out of which the three biggest breaches that we encountered was, as sir just discussed, the very first one was your Indian Council for Medical Research. Why was that targeted? Along with that, we also had the AIMS, as sir also mentioned, there was AIMS Delhi which was actually being captured, or that was being impacted. It happened because we never thought about why this, what could be the reason? What could be the reason why the attacker has to actually go on a research? If you observe very clearly, 23andMe, a UK-based company, it is also a research lab. The Red Cliff lab in India, it is also a research lab. So if you observe, in October 2023, the maximum that was impacted, or the maximum that they have, the attackers have targeted is a research sector. The research and the education sector. What could be the reason? The reason behind was, in COVID 2020, we all took vaccines. And the entire vaccines, along with our Aadhaar card, along with iris, everything is being stored, whichever order is totally grabbed together. That is actually being maintained by AIMS. The database actually, it's centralized database at AIMS or the Indian Council for Medical Research. They already have our database. So the entire Indian population has the database with them. So if you actually go through the statistics, it was 800 million data sets. That was the bridge that actually was impacted. So 8.5 million records of the patients were actually being stolen by the hackers. They could not, it was 2 to 3 weeks that actually people could not access their system. Each and every patient's data, doctor's data, everything was available to everyone publicly. The same thing happened with 23andMe in California, where this is a genetic lab. So even there, the genetic issues, again the patient details were there. And the third one, Redcliffe, was where unfortunately, fortunately, we are not sure whether that was an attack that has happened, but unfortunately their entire detail was actually in an open forum. It was in a public sector, it was open for everybody. So the entire details of what exactly the research is going on what people, what kind of things they are actually doing, everything was actually covered in this. Now the question is, where are these attacks originating from? The question is, somebody is doing attacks, but from where are these attacks originating from? We say that no, India is not impacting and India is not one of those who is actually impacting or who is a part in the attackers. No, we are wrong. We are wrong. There were days where we were very behind, but now we have very good attackers which are originating in India. So if you look at the statistics, the attacking statistics which shows the attacking IP addresses originating. The highest is of course China, but India is also not behind. So India is also now taking rise in the race where we have hackers, we have attackers which are coming into the system. How many of you are aware of what attacks? Now this was one example where education and research domain actually was impacted. But apart from that, there were other domains were also being impacted. One of them is supply chain management. When you talk about supply chain management, immediately the ports come in front of us. The major attack that happened in 2022, Feb 2022 was at JNPT. How many of you are aware of this JNPT attack? It was it is one of the top 5 ports in India. So all the containers, the maximum containers, the shipping tunnels, they come, the entire your supply chain, everything happens through JNPT. And what happened here was the attacker actually took the control of the data set and the attacker started routing the ships to some different ports where there was no facility of actually taking the container to that particular port. So that was, and there was no, this threat was not actually, fortunately, unfortunately, my husband is associated with one of the company which actually is into supply chain management, and their maximum, they have 400 tunnels, 400 ships, which are actually getting routed again and again to some other ports where they have no facility to get those containers empty. What happened here was, the motto was, there was no clear motto which was being told or which came into picture. But again, it happened that the ships were haywire moving across the sea. There was no port where they have to be vacated. So that was that happened in Feb 2022. SpiceJet Airlines, again in May, the passengers had actually suffered a lot because the flights were delayed so much. It was they already had displayed it on social media that this is something has happened, and we regret for the inconvenience for the passengers. The passengers had to be, some passengers were landed at some other place, some flights never came, some flights were late, some flights landed at some other place. So this was again a second major incident that happened in 2020. So aviation industry is also not something which is not impacted. The next, what we say is government offices cannot be hacked. No. In July 2022, it happened in Goa that July is a season of monsoon, the rainwater and the high tides and everything. So there has to be complete watch on the water, the rise in the sea levels. Basically, that data was actually being, for some money in order to, they actually encrypted it. So the entire data was encrypted, and that was the Water Resource Department had to actually pay off to recover their entire data. The next, that we all know that happened in October 22, which was your Tata Power stuff. And as I said, the All India Medical AIMS, again the student data. AIMS is the biggest medical college, and they have the maximum student data, which they, so parents' details and the students' details are also there with them. So everything, because that is the body that conducts the NEET exam for the students. So NCRT along with AIMS conduct the exam. So even that data was being taken. The concern is, now there is no industry which is being left for from the cyber attacks or the information theft. So what is the current trend? Now if I talk about DOS attacks, if I talk about other attacks, I'm not that interested in the previous attacks. I'm really interested into what's going on, the current trend. What is the current trend? Where are people actually focusing? What is the focus of attackers? And what exactly is going to be the trend in next 7 or 8 years? So my focus would be the current cyber security trends for 2023. We never observe. We love driving automatic cars. We love driving cars. Okay, and we give GPS location. We give some kind of data, some kind of sensors are activated. We did not really bother about if there can be an attack that can happen on the using this information also. Yes, there are two researchers in they have actually published in Jeep was one which was actually attacked. So two researchers have proved that they can easily hack that data of a person who is riding, it was while riding the Jeep. The two attackers, the two researchers, they were not attackers, they were ethical hackers. Actually, we can say that they were researchers who actually extracted the data, the confidential data from the GPS that the Jeep rider had connected. Along with that, Tesla also had this kind of a similar issue recently. So automated hacking is something which is actually taking a boom. Why? Because there is increase in the car, increase in the high-end cars, so-called cars. The next that we have is, as we all know, AI/ML is booming. The minute we talk about AI/ML is booming, the data is increasing, everything is increasing. We use algorithms. We use algorithms on the data set, everything. But we really do not bother about if the data set is really genuine or not. So AI, the artificial intelligence threats are also becoming a major challenge currently. The next increasing sector or the boom sector that we have is IoT. Again, as if you observe the honors minors courses also, we have AI/ML, we have IoT, we have cyber security. IoT is also increasing. Now IoT also there are vulnerabilities. Why? The minute you have hardware, if you observe the statistics, it is supply chain management. In that, if you see, it is the hardware vendors, also there is a drastic increase. Why? Because the minute before the hardware has been delivered to the customer, the attacker actually tries to manipulate that particular product, gaining some access, and then that particular product is reaching to the customer. Again, there is some kind of challenges that are happening here. Why it is happening is because of the lack of awareness of cyber security. The next that we have is mobile targeted cyber attacks. We all know that mobile has become our life. We cannot live even for 1 hour without mobile. So everything. Now this mobile targeted cyber attacks have started increasing after we are easily using, even to pay 5 rupees or 10 rupees to auto wala or chai wala, we are using Google Pay. The minute you have increased the use of apps which are already installed, some kind of apps where the confidentiality is required, the minute you start using those, 100% it's going to start with, you are going to pay with the data confidentiality. The next that you have is cloud-based cyber attacks. Currently we are working in an environment where we talk about cloud, we want everything at a virtual platform. The minute you have a sharing concept, there are again chances of breaches. And then you have state-sponsored cyber attacks. Now these state-sponsored cyber attacks basically talk about the attacks which happen across the countries, basically. So it is China sending some kind of emails to Indian government or Indian government, the military attacks and so on. So that basically covers this. Now, this is all about what attacks are and what exactly is happening currently around us. But why is it happening? And how can we stop it? Can we really stop it? How exactly, what are the measures that we have to talk? So my today's presentation talks about what exactly is a threat and what exactly is a risk. Can we identify a threat? Can we identify a risk? Yes, 100% we can. So just to understand what exactly, generally we say that vulnerability is equal to threat. No. Vulnerability is not equal to threat. Vulnerability, can someone tell me what is the difference between vulnerability and a threat? Vulnerability, some kind of mistake, some kind of flaw. Vulnerability is some kind of flaw, some kind of loophole. A threat, something that's going to happen and something which is going to cause me some kind of loss. This loss could be my data loss, this loss could be my reputation loss, anything. And what is going to impact this? What exactly it is going to be dealing with? The assets. These assets could be a hardware asset, this asset could be my reputation, anything. So basically a combination of these three. The minute you have threat, so vulnerability is basically a flaw or weakness in an asset's design or implementation or operation and management that could be exploited by a threat. Threat can be considered as a potential threat agent who will exploit the vulnerability. So who will identify, okay, this system might have this kind of a flaw, so I can immediately target this, and if I target this, this is what is going to be a loss to this particular company or this particular person. Okay, so that's something called as a threat. And the risk, 100% what you are going to lose after this particular attack is being taken. I'll quickly go through some kind of common vulnerabilities. Now these common vulnerabilities, the minute you talk about vulnerabilities, again, what kind of loopholes I can have in what kind of system. The first loophole that we generally identify is whenever we design a product, we generally have a loophole in the source code. Okay. Now there are various tools. If possible, I will try to tell you the tools also along with the vulnerability. To identify the vulnerability in the source code, we have something called as flaw finder. I'm not sure how many of you have used flaw finder. It's a the tools which I will be telling you. All these tools are open source. They are readily available. You can use it. Flaw finder is one of them. You have to simply give your code, and it will immediately give you a list of flaws that you have in the code. Along with that, you have Nikto and Nessus, which also give you the various flaws which are identified in the source code. Then you have something which is a misconfigured system component. Misconfigured system components, again, the hardware components that can lead to or